We're live. Hi, Facebook.
Wow. Hello there. Hey, my wee little Chi-Chi that helped me with all my little book and investigations.
It's so great to meet Chi-Chi. Let me see. See the resemblance here. Here's a little.
Wearing the little jacket at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. So I think the last time I saw you, Maggie, was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, way back in November.
That seems like so long ago now.
It seems like years ago.
Yeah.
It really does. But back in November.
Yeah. I forgot it was after the tour. So yeah, that was the last time.
Back in beautiful Appleton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Man, the world has changed since then.
Right.
That was a lot of fun, though.
That was a lot of fun, and first time probably the biggest adult crowd I've ever presented to. But again, for children of all ages, and I think it's all information that we know because I saw a lot of heads bobbing as I was talking. But it's stuff we forget. Over the years we forget, and and just a gentle reminder of how to bring good care to trees.
I think they did enjoy it too, because it maybe started off a little bit, as many of your presentations probably do, a little bit skeptical, like what's happening? Who did they bring to talk to us? Yeah, and then they definitely came around.
They warmed up. Yeah, they're kind of like, what's this guy all about here? What's he selling? I'm not selling anything. Right?
Right. Yeah. I see a few people joining us. If you want to say hi in the comments so that we can see who's with us today, we are going to get started here in a few minutes. We're just giving it a little bit of time so everybody can get comfortable. Pull up a chair. Say hi to Chi-Chi, our honorary guest.
Yeah. Yep.
Aw.
So yeah, this time we'd almost just be leaving Colorado from Tour de Trees. I was going to hang out there for a week after.
Okay.
Tour around, and my wife was going to come out, my son, and but boy, I saw one of our friends from Tour de Trees. They posted a picture of all this snow in Colorado.
All of a sudden. Yeah, and before that, the fires. We would have had. This year was just not meant to be, but I hope this is building up even more anticipation for next year for us.
Right. Yeah, we'll be there.
We have Beto Cortez says hi.
Hey.
Phil Graham says hi. Maggie and
Phil.
Yeah, and Chi-Chi. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone else, as you're joining, feel free to say hi in the comments. We're just waiting a couple minutes to get started. Cindy is here. Cindy Schwab. Hey, Cindy.
Hey, Cindy. We're just talking about beautiful Wisconsin.
Yeah, we were just mentioning that's the last time we saw each other.
Yeah. Boy, it was almost death by cheese curds and sausage and beer when I was there. Oh.
That was a big one. Yeah,
we got all that going on.
Big dinner, s'mores. We even had s'mores inside.
Yeah, no, it was a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
this is probably everybody's first time meeting Chi-Chi too.
Yeah.
Lori Skull is here. Hello.
Oh my goodness, Lori. Wow.
Wow. Happy birthday late to Dave Stats too.
Oh, Dave Stats. What a guy.
Last week was his birthday. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Another trip around the sun for Dave.
Aw, Mindy Fisher from my hometown. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Wow, this is really fun. Hi, everybody. I wasn't sure how a 1 p.m. time slot. Hopefully this is catching people at lunch. Oh, Lori said Cindy and Lori just did a virtual ride together, and now they're on here with us. Wow. Rolling in place all day long today.
In the spirit of Tour de Trees.
Yeah.
I'm sure missing that. It was like, it's just such an annual tradition for me to be there and meet up with the tree family and do some riding and pricklethorning, and it's always such a great week,
It was hard.
It's hard to describe because what goes on there, and it's again, it's just riding and tree spotting and just hanging out, and it's all people of like minds. So
Yeah, it was rough not being together.
Yeah,
It's fun
yeah,
having everybody saying hi in the comments right now.
awesome,
It's good to see you.
good.
I think we'll go ahead and get rolling. Hopefully,
Okay,
people will rolling in
I'm
place.
gonna let Chi Chi go. Okay,
Bye bye,
bye.
Chichi. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that was fun. Here he goes.
So today we are with Professor Pricklethorn. This is another of our virtual live stream events for Tour de Trees Rolling in Place. We were, as everybody most likely knows by now, if you follow Tree Fund, we were supposed to be in Colorado riding together last week. And we pivoted this year just as many others did with their events. We switched to a virtual fundraiser. We've raised well over $100,000 now. So everybody's done an amazing job of banding together, and we're planning on going back to Colorado next year. But in the meantime, our campaign is staying open through November 15th. And normally we have Professor Pricklethorn traveling with us. So this year we've invited him to talk with us virtually. Coincidentally, he has just had a new book come out. It's called True Tree Crimes. So many of you may have witnessed some of his younger editions of the book. This is more for an older audience, and I'll let him talk about it a little bit more. But if you are interested in getting your own copy, please visit canadiantreefund.org. Or if you're interested in supporting the Rolling in Place campaign or joining the campaign, visit tourtotrees.org. And welcome, Professor Pricklethorn. I don't know if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself before we dive into the book.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Maggie. Good to be back. And, I'm really missing the Tour de Trees, of course, and all of my riding buddies. And if you're a riding buddy from Tour de Trees, really missing you bad. And we'll get together next year. But as you say, yeah, today we're here to talk about my new book called True Tree Crimes, and AKA 10 Ways to Kill a Tree. I had 2 other publications, and they're workbooks for elementary school children. And throughout the years, people were always like, "Could I get one of those books, Professor Pricklethorn?" And I'm like, "They're for kindergarten kids." Like, where you at, right? So anyway, I got together with Jenny Duda and publisher Julie Hinton, and we put our minds together and essentially came up with a book that's CSI style that kind of walks through the 10 most common ways that we bring ailments and injury to trees in our own backyards, doing things that we realize we don't even think we're harming the tree, right? So there's old tree practices that happen, and we're going to go through a couple of them here. And so we just wanted people to be aware, have some fun, create a coloring book, more adult content, sort of tree enthusiasts of all ages. And this is exactly what we came up with. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And again, if you want to get a copy, it's canadiantreefund.org. And there's a little tab that you can press there and leave an address. And it's a $10 donation, add $3 in the US. And and all proceeds go to the Canadian Tree Fund, because our goal is to keep funding more projects for urban tree care and education.
And one of the projects you fund is a Tree Fund grant,
Right.
the Himmel grant.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
The international grant.
Applications are still open for that. We're accepting LOIs through the 15th. So a little promo there. Before I go too far, I also, let me take this off the screen, want to thank our partners really quick for making Rollin in Place possible, for supporting us again this year. You can check out a full list of partners on treefund.org.
Excellent. All amazing companies that have helped us out over the years.
So many. Yeah. And especially this year, we need it more than ever, because for everyone in the world, everyone's experiencing right now, things have changed, and we are very fortunate to have people still backing us and keeping us alive and supporting our mission.
Right.
And again, before I go too far, Paul Sellers says hi.
Hey,
Paul joined us too. Hey, Paul.
Hey, all Maxwell.
Right. Maxwell. All right. So what we're doing today is we're just going to walk through the book a little bit to give everybody a little taste and talk a little bit about how awesome it is, how awesome your characters are, maybe answer some questions. So if you are watching today and you have a question pop up, related to the book or unrelated to the book. If you think the professor can help you out, go ahead and put those in the comments and we will do our best.
And no questions about my hair. That's between my hairdresser and I every Thursday morning at 10:30.
All questions are good questions except for hair questions.
Yeah, no hair questions.
All right. As the professor mentioned, we have 10 crimes. So the first one in the book, volcano mulching.
Ooh.
I bet everybody has witnessed this. Bad volcano mulching. You can probably step outside, walk down the street, find a landscaped area, and maybe there's unfortunately a chance of volcano mulching right there. So in this first example, Flo and Matt St. Helen have planted a young shade tree on their property. And they've unfortunately followed the example of landscapers nearby, and they have volcano mulched that tree. So the professor has inspected this crime. He says it's no good.
No.
Can you tell us why it's no good?
Bad, bad, bad. Well, first of all, volcano mulching is when you take the mulch and you put it upward and to form a volcano. Like, kind of, if I did that with the hair there, but you kind of form it up. And it's a bad practice. It creates all sorts of problems. There can be, rot happening underneath. There's like rodents that'll move in. And I've been known to walk up to some areas and I kind of check both ways. And I'll do a little foot shuffle and kind of erase and flatten down the volcanoes. So what we're really trying to achieve with mulching is we're essentially recreating the forest floor. It's that simple. And we want 2 to 3 inches of mulch, and we want it spread evenly and perhaps around the ends, around the drip lines of small trees. We just do like a small ring, and we kind of refer to it as like a bagel form. Like it's just a bit of on the end, there's almost like a landform or a little levee around the sides to hold the water. But yeah, we don't want the mulch to go right up. Bad, bad, bad.
So if it's already been done, you're saying we can go ahead and still remove it. It's not too late. We should still give the tree a chance.
Yeah, it hasn't been like years because there could be some, almost like rot underneath, and it may not recover from that if it's been years and years. But yeah, it's something I tend to get on quickly, and I'll even go up and talk to some of these maintenance contractors about it and try and convince them otherwise.
Yeah. So we have a question here from Doreen Orist. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Her question was, why do landscapers do this? If we know that it's bad, why?
I think they might have been cake decorators in a previous life or something. And then I guess it looks really neat from a distance. And some of them too use the really brilliant colored dyed mulch. You can see them in reds and browns, and they say they're food coloring, but who knows what's in that dye. But I just have no idea, because it's all about, best practices when it comes to tree care, and mulching, volcano mulching is not a best practice.
Definitely.
Thanks,
yeah, thank you. That's an awesome question. We have Canadian Tree Fund and Don Rapolo all saying hi too, checking in. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And before moving on to crime scenario number 2, I do want to have you elaborate a little bit more on what kinds of mulch you recommend, and is there a difference between wood chips and mulch? What's better? You talked about the dyes maybe not being so good a little bit.
Right. Your best bet is like an organic mulch, like being either wood chips or bark chips. You want something fairly chunky and rough, because the smaller the chip, the quicker it's going to break down and decompose. You don't want like an engineered manufactured mulch with other engineered items and substances in it. So yeah, the best bet is just, and even shredded mulch is not that good because it kind of binds together and doesn't allow for a good exchange of like water and the minerals and air. So you just want a chunky type of mulch, and yeah, go for that. The creme de la creme mulch would be like a cedar mulch, and that's the best because it doesn't rot easily, doesn't break down, it lasts a long time, and it has properties in it that actually repel some insects and that. So cedar would be the best.
I know we can go down to the Home Depot here and get a big bag of cedar mulch for $3 or $4.
Right. Yeah.
relatively affordable too.
Mm-hmm.
We have Guy. I'm not sure if I'm going to say this last name correctly. I'll just say it's Guy. He says volcano mulching is bad. A300 and Z60 standards say, ANSI standards say flare shall be visible. So if you are practicing, you need to be practicing those standards.
Right. So the roots are at the bottom.
Yeah. And then, okay, so I think we can go ahead and move on to crime scenario number 2, but I do have to mention that this is a coloring book, and I'm reading a little from it. We are elaborating a little on each crime scene, but this is the most informational coloring book that I have ever seen. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So congrats to everyone involved in the creation of this. Everyone should try to get their hands on one of these if you haven't yet. Crime scenario number 2 is root zone soil compaction.
Right.
Say it 10 times fast. Bad. Another bad crime. Pierre Fenorkin.
We up in Canada we call him Pierre Fenorkin.
Fenorkin. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is Canadian. Okay, I got to get my accent work on.
Right. I get it.
He thought the area directly under his tree was protected place for storing his company truck.
Right.
It might seem ideal, but this is a bad tree crime. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Very bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This kind of thing, it's like the long game. It's like the slow drip, and it could really affect the health of the tree. Maggie, let's say your foot, right, is a root, right, underneath, and I stand on your foot for many hours a day, just standing there, right, hanging out. Sooner or later, your foot's going to be affected. You're going to lose circulation. You're going to feel pain. So it's much like the same comparison, that root compaction really affects the fibrous roots of the trees. The soil becomes all compacted and loses all the little voids of air and pockets. And there's not proper air exchange where the compaction is. So like Pierre parking his truck there is affecting the area right under where it's being parked and compacted. You know, he should move along because eventually it's going to cause some harm to that tree.
My cat tries to do that, lay on my feet until I can't feel them anymore.
Right, same deal.
Not fun.
It's gonna sooner or later it's gonna affect it.
Yeah. So if your soil is compacted, is there anything you can do to improve it?
Yeah, there's a couple of methods. Anything from like a simple lawn aeration where your tines that you're pulling out and then you know the comes up top and you rake it out and the fill goes back in, to even like vertical mulching where you are essentially pulling out plugs of soil and then you can backfill with a much softer medium of material. So it does change, and it softens the soil and allows for better air water exchange to the roots.
So it's probably always good to contact a certified arborist. When would you recommend that somebody contact an arborist though?
You know what, if you kind of hit a road on what to do and how to address a tree, it's such an important asset. And when you think about the value of trees, it's worth picking up a phone and calling an ISA certified arborist to get an opinion, because part of the certification is keeping up on education, best practices around the world, and typically they will have the answer for what ails that tree. And in this case too, like that's a fairly serious crime to continue compacting around the tree, and it will need some professional help.
Yeah, definitely. So backing up a little bit here, back to the volcano mulching. Jeff Isles, hi Jeff. I missed his comment earlier, but he says they call it haystack mulching in Iowa. I hadn't heard that before. That's
wow.
Fun.
They use hay?
I would not be surprised.
Wow.
Still a problem though.
Hey Jeff, in Toronto we use leaves. NHL joke there.
All right. Crime scenario number 3, girdling the trunk. And I have to share this photo here. Look how sad that trunk is.
Oh my gosh, girdling the trunk.
Yeah.
Oh.
Frank and polyethylene decided to install a clothesline in their backyard. So it sounds like the clothesline wire was connected to the house,
Yeah.
but wrapped around the
Wrapped
tree.
around the tree like multiple times.
Yeah.
Around the trunk here.
Sounds like an awful
Around
crime.
and around and around. And essentially, it chokes the tree. And one of the things I do in schools, I take in this bundle of straws here. And the tree trunk is really aligned like straws. There's all rays that go vertically up and down the tree. So you put a wire, a cable around it, you're essentially restricting and choking all of the transfers of fluids and the xylem and phloem, and really biting in right into the trunk of the tree as the tree calipers out. And you just choke it off of all of the translocations of liquids and fluids and everything it needs from the roots up to the canopy. So you can use like an eye hook. You could use like a soft strap that doesn't bite into the tree. But when you start using chains and wires and girdling the trunk of the tree, this is exactly what you're doing to the tree. And another thing that we don't really consider when we think of girdling, I like to call it line trimmer disease, where on a tree, people use a line trimmer, and you see companies, again, I don't want to be hard on the commercial companies, but they're out there every 7 to 10 days line trimming around the trees, and they're buzzing right up against the bark of the tree, again, which separates the bark from the cambium layer, causes internal problems with the translocation of all the fluids, and it literally will kill the tree. So, and same with lawnmowers. When you're banging the lawnmower all around the tree, every week, eventually over the years, it's really going to cause damage to that tree.
Yeah, even little animals nibbling. It's adorable.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love how you refer to it as DBG, death by girdling.
Yes.
Probably a common crime that you come across.
I see it a fair bit. And again, I try and jump in there. And again, sometimes people that plant trees will use staking, and they'll use like a hose and a wire, and they'll crimp it. And all of a sudden it'll be there for like 6 or 7 years. The tree calipers out. And all of a sudden it's got this like ligature, like strangling the tree. And it's like, they did all this trouble to get the tree started, but something simple of just cutting that tie off, or, could save that tree.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah.
So my question is, am I causing the tree harm when I hang my hammock? Is it still safe to do that?
Yeah, no, it should be all right. And I've seen like people doing temporary slack lines on bigger trees. Again, if you use a soft strap to do it and you're not totally girdling the tree, it depends on the size of the tree, and if you're, but generally I don't think hanging a hammock will do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have an arborist friend who wasn't able to join us today, Billy Volchko, but he sends his hello.
Billy.
Yeah. He had a question for you specifically.
This is for Billy.
Woo! Where's the handstand? He has a question for you, though.
Yes.
He's wondering if you could advise him, because as a practicing arborist now, he deals with a lot of root girdling. And a lot of times they cut that root to stop the girdling, but a lot of times it's also pretty far along already. So How much of the root do you think is safe to prune or remove when you have to deal with situations like that?
I'm just going to bring this up quickly. This is like the base of a tree. A girdling root is a root that actually literally wraps around the bottom of the tree and will strangle itself. Norway maples are famous for this. It almost looks like a cable, and I've cut some that when you cut them, the earth will actually shake, that it's almost like a high tension cable that, when they let go, it just like a little tremor. But that root is associated with some place, like a specific area of the tree. So it may, by cutting that root, may cause some harm to a certain area of the tree, some dieback or stress. The size of the root, like what sort of the threshold is, boy, oh boy. Again, it depends if it's really digging into the tree and you can see that there's it's becoming concave due to the pressure of that root cutting in. I'm thinking maybe a couple of inches in diameter. And again, it's almost like tree surgery, that it's a surgical procedure that a professional arborist would do at that point to kind of in some cases, they use like an air gun to blow back and expose the roots, and then actually do tree surgery where you're cutting back the girdling roots.
So it's definitely situational, depends on the species, and the size of the tree, the location.
Exactly. Some are more rigorous and vigorous than others.
Yeah. Oh, great. He will love that answer.
Super.
I think he was looking for do it this way, this number every time, always do it the same.
I'm not going to give you that, Billy.
You can't do that as an arborist. You have to be flexible.
You got to get me to that tree to look at it, right?
Definitely. Okay, crime scenario number 4, severing the roots. So that's probably a pretty good segue into severing the roots here.
Right, yeah.
Homeowner Tim Burr thought it would be a wise long-term investment to green up his property by installing a DIY irrigation system from Shalom Depot. To do this as efficiently as possible, he marked out the locations of the irrigation heads near his trees and began trenching. And you can imagine how that went for him. So another bad crime, it sounds like. Well,
I went to high school with him, and he's definitely not a deep thinker kind of guy, right? So anyway, he just puts his head down and starts swinging with that axe, right? He tried to trench in the irrigation system across the lawn, but he doesn't care how close it is to the tree. He doesn't care what roots he rips up. Instead of like almost circumventing and going around the drip line with the water line that he got from Shalom Depot, he went right through where there's important feeder roots. And again, this is going to affect the health of that tree in the long run by him doing that. So I had a chat with him, and we tried to patch up some of the damage with, making proper cuts on the roots, because he was just like flailing away, just like a madman. But hopefully it'll be okay. But a lesson to other people that if you're going to do that or install lines or whatever, there's other ways you can do it. You can kind of tunnel underneath with boring instruments, or again, going around the drip line. You don't have to do a big trench next to the tree to lay down like a 1-inch pipe.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's too bad. He looks like an aggressive fellow.
Yeah.
Didn't serve him as well this time. And a reminder
before they had proper helmets.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, that hat with the skull and crossbones, a little scary. A reminder to our viewers too, if you have any questions for the professor, if you've joined us later, go ahead and send those into the comments. We're still answering those. I have a question for you, actually. A situation that's just occurred right outside our apartment complex.
Wow.
The city recently dug up a large portion of the root system of a Norway maple just next to the building here, and probably at least a foot from the trunk, but it's probably a 24-inch DB. It was a big tree.
Yeah.
And they already did the work. I don't know what utility work they were doing. They dug like 3 feet deep on the entire side of the tree. What should I do? Should I notify? Probably too late now, but as a resident, do I have any power to ring a bell right now to warn somebody that tree might be hazardous now?
Well, let's face it, Maggie, there was probably no arborists on that backhoe digging crew, right? So they probably didn't have any regard for the tree, or have any regard for creating a hazard, or the physics and dynamics of how trees work. So they probably, if they were that close as you're saying, they're probably cutting major roots and compromising the structure of the tree, because it needs the roots to hold itself and knit into the ground. So, as they say, a perfect storm, it could come in at a perfect angle and actually topple over and cause damage. So,
and the tree, it is right next to the building. I have a feeling it was here before the building was constructed. So the other side of that tree has to be damaged as well. It's it's
going to be a problem. You won't see it maybe next week, or, in a couple of weeks. It might be something that presents itself in the spring, but throughout, it's going to be challenged with stability. They definitely, if they did it that close, they probably got some big anchor roots and just ripped them out. Maybe Tim Burr was the guy operating the backhoe, right? He got his. He
kind of looked like Tim Burr. I got home and saw it happening when it was almost done. So
Yeah.
yeah. As a resident though, should you ever, if you see something going wrong, get involved, or what is your
I would, especially if you're in a town or a city that has a urban forestry department. There's often they have like bylaw and standards. In Toronto here, I like to call them the tree police, and they're a very valuable section to have that protect and have standards and different bylaws that protect the well-being of trees. And in some cases, as they say, you got to break an egg to make an omelet, but there could have been other ways that they could have done the work if they would have consulted an arborist.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate that advice. I'll have to get gutsy enough to be that person who sounds the alarm, but in some situations can be scary. So
absolutely. And again, contact an arborist or somebody with the town or municipality and have them look at it and assess it. And unfortunately, if it's that bad, it may have to come down at this point.
Yeah, that's too bad because we have always admired that tree since we've been here. So
sad story.
Yeah. We have a little comment from Jeff Isles. Hello, Professor. He has a query for you.
Okay.
What is your opinion on fertilizing young trees?
My opinion on fertilizing young trees. Personally, I like a spring application because that's when, to me, in my opinion, they have like the vigor and they're energized by the big ball of fire up in the sky. So I do tend to look at a spring application of fertilizer.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. All right, moving right along to crime scenario number 5, improper pruning, aka topping. Will Hackenbush, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Was thrilled with his latest garden center purchase, stocking up on tree cutting gear. He purchased a whole array of stuff. His favorite, though, was the almighty chainsaw. He has 3-fingered hand to prove it. Ooh.
Yeah, he's this is his favorite item right here.
Oh gosh.
To do this, and yeah, he's just gets carried away.
Yeah, it looks like maybe he's been a little aggressive with toppings of the trees when he got home from his purchase. So why is this bad? Why is this a crime? He's just trying to do good too, just like everybody else.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When you top them like that, or you do improper pruning, it compromises the trees. And when we talk about topping, when you do like horizontal cuts on major large wood of the tree, like i.e. cutting the top out, the tree has a very, very hard time healing itself. And what's called compartmentalization, and this legendary person, Dr. Shigo, actually wrote the book on this. But the trees have a very, very difficult time healing that large of cut on the main trunk. So it creates a vector for disease, insects. It weakens the tree, and usually in some cases it's the beginning of the end for the tree. Some species especially really, really struggle with being topped.
We have a good comment here too that oftentimes people might confuse topping with pollarding.
Right. Pollarding is done, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, pollarding is done a lot of times with fruit trees for the production of fruits and like espaliers and that kind of technique.
Yeah, but it's not often seen on street trees, and it should not be probably practiced with street trees. We don't see a lot of fruit trees as street trees.
Exactly.
So you should definitely consult a certified arborist before taking on any pruning work that you're not confident in, that you don't have a background of knowledge in. But how do people recognize when a tree should be pruned?
Well, in urban areas, a lot of times if there's dead wood that could cause injury or harm, if there's an obvious target that the dead wood could fall on, then it should be looked after. There could be, even when we do small tree pruning, we're always through an arborist's eyes. We're looking at like codominant leaders that we typically want like 1 leader in the tree, or we'll look for items like interfering branches that are crossing. That's going to be a problem later on. So that's the type of thing we look for. And that's exactly the type of thing that we're trying to correct with pruning.
Awesome. And then what do you say to people who want to thin their trees purely for the reason that they want the light to be able to penetrate through for better grass growth
Well,
underneath the canopy?
yeah, you know what? I'm not a big fan of that. I just want the tree to be a tree, because if you're worried about the grass underneath, there's always an option of mulching. Um, Depending on the species, yeah, people could do it and do some sort of like crown reduction type of pruning. But again, I would leave that to an arborist to inspect the tree, do a full assessment, and some trees can't take that much of a pruning. Like, it's going to bring more harm and to them than, you know, what your grass is really worth.
Yeah, I tend to agree. That's really great advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Prime scenario number 6.
Ooh.
I was excited looking through the book when I got to number 6 because it was kind of a relief where we got a big coloring section,
Right.
not text. But what I gained from this in Overindulgence is that you are saying everything in moderation with trees. Don't do too much of anything, not too much pruning or mulching or
fertilizer. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the trees pretty much have what they need in the environment around them. So by, you know, again, too much pesticides or watering too much fertilizer, putting trees close together, like they want to green up their lawn, so they plant like 10 trees when there only should have been like 4 trees, and then, you know, 20 years from now they're going to have to, you know, take out trees in the middle. So it's just too much overindulgence. Have a plan and stick to the plan, and have that plan based upon the right tree in the right place, which we'll get to a little bit later.
Definitely. I think that one thing you can't give too much to a tree unless you consequently are giving it a lot of foot traffic or hugging it maybe a little bit too hard and you end up somehow girdling it. You maybe can't give it too much affection. You can't love trees too much.
That's right. That's right.
So what is your favorite tree?
Oh boy. Right here in my backyard in Canada is the Scots elm. It's a beautiful, massive, big elm, very much like the American elm. It's just such a huge, majestic tree, but it's kind of susceptible to Dutch elm disease. So there's not a lot of them, but the ones that I know of are just beauties. When I get down to the southern part of the States, I absolutely love the live oak. I never really knew much of them until I started traveling through Tour de Trees, and they would say, well, there's a live oak. And I'm like, of course it's a live oak. It's green. It's alive, right? But the live oak, I absolutely love. And a dear friend, Bob Thibodeau and Haley Dozier and my friends down in Louisiana were the ones to first introduce me to the live oak, and just how beautiful they are and how important they are to, you know, fending off the hurricanes and the high winds and stabilizing the land with their strong root structure. An amazing tree.
You just know, you can feel the power.
Yeah.
You feel the impact of that tree just by standing next to one.
Yeah.
Great answer. Oh, real quick, Joanna says, hi, we miss you too, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe. And we have another question here too. A couple questions, actually. What kind of fertilizer is suitable for mature transplanted trees?
Oh, I would go with like a water soluble type of fertilizer. And boy, on the like the composition of the NPK, I tend to like look at even numbers. Like I'm sure there's people that know more about the actual fertilizing than I do, but I try and look at, like, you know, what's the need of that specific plant? Is it the crown, or like the green growth, which is, you know, more of a nitrogen component, or is it like, you know, the phosphorus, or, you know, for roots and overwintering? But yeah, depending on the tree, there's different formulations. But I do like the water soluble type.
And then our second question here, I have not heard of it before, but somebody asks, have you ever heard of a grow gun before?
A grow gun? I've heard a grow tree grow.
Yeah.
Grow gun, is that like a injection system for fertilizer?
Yeah, maybe they can, if you ask that question, please clue us in the comments, and we'll share with the group later. I have not heard of that either before.
A grow gun, interesting.
Yeah. Oh, grow gunning involves an air compressor that is used to loosen the soil.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Okay, like an impact. Yeah, they use
Yeah.
compressed air, and it shatters the soil structure to allow air and water exchange. Interesting. See,
Yeah.
and again, this is stuff that you want to consult an arborist. You just don't want to go to the rental center and just, get yourself a big compressor and a pneumatic gun and start doing this. You want to bring in the professionals to do this kind of stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, number 7, too mean, too lean. Nowadays, minimalism is trendy. Unfortunately, the Sparsely family carried that mindset over to their newly planted front yard tree, and basically they did nothing. They didn't water it. They just expected to plant this tree, and then it would be okay. And you mentioned in here that that's really, really common, and you can't take a baby home and assume it will be okay, or a kitten or anything else. So
you know what? I'm shocked at the times that I see this. I'll see like a tree ceremony where, they have the mayor and, all the big wigs out there, and they'll plant a tree and shake hands and take pictures with the silver shovels, and they'll just walk away and forget about the tree, not even watering, no maintenance program. But when you plant a tree, it's typically the first 3 years of planting that tree that it does need a water source. It needs a steady water source to help establish all of its roots and dig in so it can make its way to find water sources on its own. So, you're encouraging it to push the roots outward and onward and into areas where it can fend for itself.
That's the feel good part of it too. Everybody gets very excited to get their hands dirty and plant that tree. Right. But you can get excited about that follow-up too.
Right.
I think
one of the best jobs I ever had was one summer just on a water truck watering trees, doing small tree maintenance and watering trees, and going back years later and seeing big healthy trees that you climb nowadays.
And seeing it lush and green is sure a good feeling compared to being worried if you're gonna lose it.
Right. So, yeah, I know. I see that on front yards. I walk by and I see they did all this trouble to go to the nursery and pick out a tree and bring it home and plant it. Then they just kind of ignore it, and you can see the leaves shriveling up. I want to sneak up buckets of water at night and just douse it.
You give really great advice on how much you should water trees in the book. And I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about your advice on how long you should continue to water a tree when you bring it home. How many years does that tree really need a lot of attention?
I typically do it like 3 seasons in. Okay. And again, watering, you're monitoring your local climate. So you want to just keep it from becoming dry and crusty around the base of the tree. And again, by just, kind of teasing it and giving it enough water, you're going to teach it and encourage it to push its own roots out. So about 3 seasons typically.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. And we've gone over our original half hour, so we've got a couple more. I want to go ahead and speed through these because they're really great still.
This is the 4-hour webinar, right? We're going to do a break after the first 2?
Yes, you can keep talking for 4 hours. We might disappear. No worries, though. Feel free. But we are going to get through 8, 9, and 10 here.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up soon.
Yeah. Johnny Diggs' backyard was slightly sloped, and he figured he could make it more functional by adding fill to level it. So he did. This is complicated by the presence of a mature beech tree, the centerpiece of his yard.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah.
What a guy. You know what? Again, I'll use you as an example that he pushed all this grade up over the roots of this old, beautiful beech tree. In long game, slow drip, it's going to really affect the health of that tree. Like, Maggie, you're lying down and I start putting like blankets over you. Then I 1 blanket, 2 blankets, 3 blankets, 10 blankets. You're not going to be able to breathe eventually. So we're not going to get exchange of water, air. It changes the whole dynamic of how the tree roots function on bringing in all the essential elements. So changing the grade either by, cutting the roots out like Tim Burr did, or Johnny Diggs, actually stacking and putting soil on top of the root system, it's going to be fatal to the tree.
A lot of people don't realize that those roots need air too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll see in some cases where, again, landscape architect companies or arborists are called in, where they'll, in order to save the grade of a tree, they'll do like tree walls or retaining walls kind of thing. So if you're going to be doing that or you have any inclination to do it, I would consult with an ISA certified arborist.
And you mentioned in here he could, if he's already backfilled, he could possibly excavate the soil, or if you move into a new home and you're facing a situation where someone already did that, you could try to excavate. But is there a danger to that if the roots have tried to grow up to try to reach that more viable soil for them?
Well, yeah, I'm one always to try. And again, you might have to do something like vertical root mulching and other practices like the grow gun to try and restore and recover that original grade. But I would on a beautiful specimen, if somebody did tamper with it and change the grade, I would try and correct that. Awesome.
Okay. Number 9, improper planting practices. So a lot of issues can just be resolved or saved by proper tree planting. Dawn Redwood sees great value and benefits in tree planting. She believes that planting a tree leaves a green legacy for the future generations. Dawn also believes that as long as the tree's root ball is well covered with soil, it will click with its new environment and flourish. So this really sounds like great intentions, but what is going wrong here?
Again, just not following best practices when people are doing these tree planting jobs. Typically, and I don't know if everybody's in agreement in the arbor industry, but people tend to plant too low. I think that's kind of the number one default. And that old saying, if you plant them low, they'll seldom grow. Plant them high, they may survive. But yeah, people tend to plant their trees too low, and that's kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, it's too bad. So that's really, it's last listed. Well, we do have one more, but it's at the end of the book here, and it's so important. So make sure you read all the way to the end if you're looking to learn more. So many situations could have been prevented with proper tree planting.
Yeah, and I should just mention to my old friend Bob Thibodeau. He had a saying, and he said, never plant a $50 tree in a $5 hole. So that meaning, like, you spend all this money on a tree, dig a proper hole, plant the tree properly. And when I would watch Bob planting, he would get down on his hands and knees. He would have a knife to cut any J roots, and he would work by hand to spread the roots out to make sure they weren't going around in a direction that they're going to girdle. But yeah, when you're planting the tree, plant it right. And there's all sorts of specs and tree planting advice available on the internet and through ISA. Yeah, it's a heck of an effort to do it. So just make sure your effort pays off by doing it right.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. Thank you. And then a reminder, once again, we do have one more scenario here, but if you have more questions for the professor, please continue to submit them. This is the time, and we're having a lot of fun. But our last one is improper species selection. So really goes hand in hand in planting the right tree in the right place and at the right time of year. I guess backtracking, we didn't mention that, but you can consult an arborist, a certified arborist, if you have questions on whether it's safe to plant a tree right now or not. Improper species selection. Unsuspecting homeowners, Mr. and Mrs. Snodgrass, simply wanted a shade tree for their front yard. At their local nursery, the Snodgrasses quickly became overwhelmed by the number of varieties that seemingly would fit the bill. So deer in the headlights, what should they do? This is your one chance to get it right, too, before you have the chance to plant it correctly.
Well, yeah, they're quite a couple of Snodgrasses. And, Mrs. Snodgrass wanted a weeping willow, and it's just a tiny little front lawn they have. And Mr. Snodgrass wanted a redbud for, which would probably be a lot more suitable for what they had. But anyway, they were able to consult with the young lady that works there, Nature Nancy. And, if you get professional help like that at a garden center or a certified arborist, they will just rationalize, and they'll look at the different species and the characteristics of the different species and the needs and the growth habit. And sometimes it just doesn't match with what you're after or what the landscape presents. So, you know, again, if there's wires overhead that are 30 feet up, you don't want to plant a tree that's going to be 50 feet. If there's beside a sidewalk that gets salt in the winter, you don't want to plant like a really super intolerant plant for salt. Yeah, there's all sorts of different fits for different scenarios. And by consulting an arborist, you can certainly cut through them awfully quick.
Definitely. Yeah. Consult your certified arborist, ISA certified arborist. Professor Pricklethorn, it has been so fun. We've made it through all 10
Right,
crimes.
amazing.
All of them horrible crimes. We hope that we have put a damper to some of that in the world today.
Yeah. And all these crimes are things that people are unknowingly doing. Like, they don't really mean to bring harm to their trees. They're just, you know, they see stuff and they duplicate what they see and don't really think about all the implications with the tree, which is like a living dynamic plant. So, and just before we cut out, I want to give a special shout out to my friends at the Canadian Tree Fund, who are very, very supportive of me. Love them all, the board of directors. And special shout out to a good friend, Lindsay Purcell, down in Purdue there. And Lindsay was very instrumental in some of my technical writings on the book. And also to Linda Wolf, who gave us good advice and guidance in writing the book as well. And of course, to the amazing illustrator, Jenny Duda. Anybody that colors a picture in the book, I'd love to get a shot of it, and I will post it on pricklethorn.com. And yeah, and if you want a book, please go to the CanadianTreeFund.org, just CanadianTreeFund.org, and there's a tab right on the front page, and we'll ship out books to you. But it's been great, Maggie.
So impressive. I can't say enough how amazing this is, and so much fun to have you with us here today. If anybody does have more questions, I have a feeling you could filter those, send them to me. You can find, or just send them to our Tree Fund Facebook page, and we'll get them to the professors one way or another. I know we'll have a lot of viewers probably after the fact watching. So make sure you check out the Rolling in Place campaign at tourtotrees.org. Get your own copy of the book, as he said, as the professor said, at CanadianTreeFund.org. It's been a pleasure having you with us today.
Awesome. So happy to be here.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Ciao.